that why everybody liked it before?
Like the Grateful Dead.
Yeah, all of that music, that entire era.
I don't know. I mean, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with the Rolling Stones at all. They're one of the most popular bands ever. It's just not my style.
I guess. Yeah, I mean, me too. I guess. I don't think I can name another song.
I was gonna say, could you name 5 Rolling Stones songs?
If you named the 5 most popular Rolling Stones song, I will know the names of those songs, but I don't have them as like recall in my brain.
Could you name 5 Pink Floyd songs?
Probably not, but I can get like 1 or 2, and that's something that like has the albums downstairs. I'm also not good at like the names of songs.
Me neither. I just know the songs. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Stochastic.com NBA Deeper Dive. Been a while since I've been on this one. Dave Loughlin, Josh Engleman, little 7-game action today. Some very popular plays with Wemby out. Well, we'll get to all of this. Karl Anthony, is this the same injury as Embiid?
More or less.
Feels like it, right?
They're both meniscus, but like
Yeah.
that could be 2 very different things.
It's just funny though, because
treated.
with Embiid, they were like, well, we're going to need more, further time to diagnose this and everything. And they're saying the same thing about Towns as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it really just sort of comes down to he wants to know if he could play or not. Like that's really the discussion. Like if you know immediately like you can't make it back for the playoffs, then it changes your like he just wants to. I assume they want to try to rehab him to see if he can come back before he has to go under the knife, which is like we want to try to save this season. Yeah, so I get it.
Then put him under the knife and let him rest over the off season.
I mean, they're dead in the water one way or the other, so it really doesn't matter. This is the death knell of the Wolves dynasty that doesn't exist ended today when we got that news.
Who's saying there's a Wolves dynasty?
Well, people love the Wolves right now, but they have to make a decision financially for the team by next year. So they're already wasting the only shot that they had this year by Towns being hurt. They're dead in the water. Like someone's leaving that team in the next 12 months that makes a shit ton of money. But Towns was the most likely guy, but not helpful if he has to get a meniscus surgery.
Anyway, happy to have you guys with us. Hey, if you haven't done so yet, walking in the door, take 1 single second, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Goes a long way for us here on YouTube. Also live on playback right now. Gonna have to find a way to get my camera working over there. Jordan said I had to set it up in OBS or something, but we'll be good. You know who's here. We'll be going live on playback after the fact as well, 7 p.m. Appreciate you guys, many of you hanging out. The crowd just seems to get larger, Josh.
It's fun to see, man. It's fun to see. Like, especially like when we get there at 7 o'clock and we watch that number climb on the playback side, it's been significantly higher than I thought it could be. So that was nice.
Yeah, man. Anyway, we got 7 games to talk about. Live before lock coming up after this. Appreciate you guys being with us. We'll dive straight into Minnesota, Indiana. We were just talking about it with Towns being out. I mean, he's sidelined indefinitely at this point. They're only 1.5 point dogs, 227.5 total. Good matchup against the Pacers. No better spot to start than this. You've got Kyle Anderson, 63%, Gobert, 29%. Edwards only pulling 15%. Kind of interesting. We can get into this, but 2 games without Towns this year, 42% usage, 35% usage with no Towns on the floor this season. So definitely an interesting spot. He's going to chalk against the team that's 27th in defensive rating and one of the fastest paced teams in the league. But I think we have to start with Kyle Anderson here.
Yeah, he's just kind of the dude that you have to get to. 63% owned, 45% optimal on our last run. Probably stepping into that starting lineup, getting 29, 30, 31, 32, somewhere in that range of minutes. But pretty clearly one of the best plays that you can get to. You get small forward, power forward eligibility. He's just simply not priced for the role that he has. He's priced to play 21 minutes today, not 30. So it's chalk season on Kyle Anderson, but it's as deserved as it gets. Oh, by the way, they faced the 26th ranked defense and the 3rd fastest team in the league. So it's even an incredible matchup that he gets too.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Also, I don't know how many times we've mentioned this, but the Pacers, a good enough offensive team to where, sure, Minnesota, very talented defensively, still a 227.5 total here, which for a Minnesota Timberwolves game is actually pretty high. So it just overall makes for a great spot. But looking at some of these other options, like you're talking Gobert, 29% with Towns out of the lineup. I looked earlier today, his rebound prop was 15.5, 16.5 in some spots with juice on the under. $7,500 on DraftKings today in a good rebounding matchup against the Pacers. Are you getting over on Rudy Gobert right now? Because he's pulling 29%. Seems like a lot.
No, I barely have him. I do not have the same projection. I'm way, way, way lighter than we are right now. I only have 3% of Gobert. And it's not like I don't have him projected well. I have 15 points and 13.5 rebounds. I don't like hate that. I might be like a rebound shy. I've tweaked every rate that I could to get him to where I need to be. I'm pulling up the prop right now. Rudy Gobert's rebound prop is 13.5 with a little bit of juice to the over. I have 13.6. His points prop for today is 15.5. I have 15. Like, I'm incrementally below, but I'm apparently 5.5 fantasy points different. I like where I'm at, and I will happily fade Rudy Gobert at 30% owned because I don't really know how to make up that ground.
So earlier today, Rudy Gobert rebounds was 15.5.
Seems like it's come down quite a bit.
It's
I wonder if, hold on. I assume, give me 1 second. Okay. What's our projection now on Rudy Gobert?
I can pull
Gobert.
it up. And I know this because I was doing the underdog video today, and the highest rated prop over at OddsShopper was Rudy Gobert under 15.5 rebounds.
I'm pulling up our stuff now since we just got the update. So I'm going to try to figure out if everything that I was just saying was completely untrue to start the show.
Yeah, let's see. How long is it going to take?
Okay.
You need me to keep moving on here? Or are you good?
Oh, no. I'm copying. I assume ownership got updated too. We got that. Nope, that one's still the same. So anyway, Gobert is now at 41.4 DraftKings points, which is 2 north of me, not 5. So I don't have the same gap we had before. I don't know what his ownership is going to be at this point. We had it at 29. Given the fact that his rebound prop has come down by however many rebounds you just said, I'm guessing he's less owned than he was before. So I don't really have a great feel for Rudy Gobert because I have no idea anything that's going on for Rudy Gobert from an ownership perspective.
Do you think Conley sees like any significant uptick in usage today?
Not really. He does see a bit of a bump. I want to say that he's like normally around 16% when they're at full strength, and he jumps up to like that 18.5 range. I don't necessarily think that's changing the game up for him in a big way. He's going to be in that 0.9 to 0.95 range. You will see like a slight bump to an assist rate just because he can have the ball more, but this whole team is like a 25% assist rate team. Edwards, Jordan McLaughlin, if he's going to be out there, Kyle Anderson, Conley, Monty Morris. I have all of these guys at like a 25% assist rate. So they really do have a lot of like movement of the ball. But I am getting to Conley here. 20% of my lineup, 16% owned. Just solid, especially in this matchup against Indiana. You just want to get to Minnesota because they gain so many possessions over their average.
Yeah, it's one of the slowest teams against one of the best defensive teams, but against one of the fastest paced teams. Another thing too, if you're taking this Minnesota team and you're taking Towns off the floor, if you start looking at just usage for this team in its entirety, there's just not a lot there, right? Like you have Edwards and Towns, both of whom clearly the highest usage on the team. Then you're getting down to like 22% Naz Reid on the season. To get past that, you're looking at 16% Gobert, Conley's at 14.8, Anderson at 14. Understandably, Edwards already has a high usage rate, so like there's only so many possessions that you can attribute to him as a scorer. But like I said, 42% usage in the 2 games that he played without Towns this season, 35% with Towns off the floor. He's only pulling 15% right now.
I thought I was going to get so much of Anthony Edwards today, and I'm just not. I'm like right with the field, and he looks so good, but he's been good lately, even ignoring this Towns news. 1.36 DraftKings points per minute over the last month. He bumps up to around 30 real points for today, 5 and 5 on the rebound and assist side. But I still have him at that 1.35 mark because I think he's been playing a little bit overperforming over those past 30 days. But I think he looks fantastic. I love the price. I love the position. I love everything about, I love the matchup. I love all of Anthony Edwards. I have no idea why he's not in way more of my lineups. He looks great. If you want to prioritize someone today, I don't think going to Anthony Edwards is a problem at all.
Jordan, how much? Okay, so we're getting 26% Edwards in our Sims run. 74% Anderson and 20% Gobert, 16% Conley. So Edwards is our second highest exposed Timberwolf in our first Sims run leading up to lock.
Yeah, he's my third. That I'm going to rerun once we get ownership, I'm going to rerun everything. And, I can circle back if I have anything that changes a lot, because I think that Gobert one is going to move around for me. Just because I think my original run was based on the fact that I was 6 points behind everything we had.
Anything else for Minnesota?
Not really. Like, Naz Reid's fine at 5,400. You don't really see him get a massive minutes bump the way that you would expect when Towns is out. It really does seem to go to Anderson a little bit more. I mean, Towns has only missed minimal time, but like Naz Reid's rates don't change. And that's really the key takeaway here. He looks okay. I have 4%. We have him with some positive leverage right now. We'll see how that ends up, but he's the only other guy that I would want to get to. Jaden McDaniels is always the guy that sneaks into 5% of my lineups. I don't want to go too crazy getting to him because he's just such a poor per minute guy. I think the real focus is just obviously Kyle Anderson as a essentially lock button cash play. And then Edwards, Gobert, and Conley all look really similar to me.
So you've got Minnesota looking really good without Towns in a good pace up spot against a bad defense. You flip to the other side of this game though, and there's not a lot there. I mean, it's tough. And we've talked about this before on the strategy show, but I'm not convinced that Halliburton's playing at 100% health right now. It certainly doesn't feel that way. I know he was fine last time out, but since returning from that 3-game absence, he doesn't look like the same guy we had seen prior to that. Even if he did, well, 8,800, I think maybe you can make the argument, but on a per minute basis, he just has not been as good lately.
No, he hasn't. 1.22 DraftKings points per minute over the past month for Halliburton. The price is starting to come down, so it's making him a little bit more interesting. I have 5%. That's also the most I have of anybody from the Pacers. Number one defense, and if we're being honest, it probably gets better with Towns being out instead of worse. Certainly their offense takes an even bigger hit. I mean, from an ownership perspective, the most we had of anybody on the Pacers side is 5% or 6% to Pascal Siakam, who's also 9% optimal. No one got to 10% anything, and that's the way that I see it. The problem is I do like a lot of Indiana in terms of guys that can show up in a lineup. Like, I have lineups with Halliburton, Siakam, Turner, Jalen Smith, Andrew Nembhard, Aaron Nesmith, but I don't have anybody more than 5%. It's just every lineup gets to have a courtesy pacer.
Right. On a 7-game
It doesn't look good though.
You're going to get some. Who'd you say your highest own right now was? Siakam?
Halliburton, 5%.
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense. We have what? 5% Halliburton, 5% Aaron Nesmith, 2% Jalen Smith. There's nothing there. So let's move on to the next one. What do you say? Yeah. Brooklyn and Detroit. Okay. So let's get to this Brooklyn team now. This is an interesting slate for a number of reasons.
Thank God this game's at 7.
So, number one, Ben Simmons, unsurprisingly done for the year. I'm certain nobody saw that coming. Cam Johnson is out. Cam Thomas is out. Ben Simmons is out. Daron Sharp is out. The biggest question now is, does Lonnie Walker play or not with that illness? Because if you so I was thinking about this earlier. If you take a look at this team right now, and Josh, you can tell me, but you're going to share similar sentiment here. Mikal Bridges, first of all, his usage has been down lately for some reason. I couldn't tell you why, but you've seen a stark decrease in usage lately.
Yeah.
But it's not like Claxton is a high usage player. Dennis Schroeder's Dennis Schroeder. Dennis Smith Jr. is Dennis, all of these guys. Dorian Finney-Smith is a spot up 3-and-D guy. You have no Johnson, no Cam Thomas. You're left with not a whole lot here. And if Lonnie Walker plays, he starts to look spectacular.
Yeah, he's a fantastic value if he's in. 4,600, shooting guard, small forward. He's usually a 0.9 to 0.95 guy, but with Cam Johnson out, they're looking for a little bit more offense in general. And you would expect Lonnie Walker to be able to step into that sort of playing time. We have him projected for 28 minutes. I went to 27. with that position, and like you could very easily see him play more if the game's going well. 38% owned on our last run, 50% on FanDuel on our last run. He's a really quality option. The fact that you can put him in at shooting guard, small forward, guard, forward, and utility, very helpful. He's just a really good fit for everything you want to do. They're taking on a 28th ranked defense in the Pistons. I mean, Lonnie Walker is going to have the third highest points prop for Brooklyn if he's in this game. Like you're expecting him to score, and it doesn't take a lot to pay off 4,600. Right now, I have the target score for him at like 33 fantasy points. I mean, that is what like that's more than easy to get to for him. Clearly, to me, the best option you can get to from Brooklyn. But if he doesn't play, like, do we start playing Jalen Wilson at 3,400? Do we unlock Keon Johnson? I don't even know if he's still on the team. There's not a lot left for Brooklyn if Lonnie Walker has to sit out.
No, and you just have to wonder where like the distribution of possessions is going to go in a spot like this.
Yeah. Like I'm getting a bit over the field on Dennis Schroeder, which I'm pretty happy about. Not really getting to Bridges as much. And he's a guy that I get to pretty regularly. And I do think looks solid enough. I don't really get to Claxton all that much anymore. I don't have him. This is just like the Lonnie Walker and Dennis Schroeder show for me. But yeah, someone else is going to pop up if Walker is out.
I guess the reason I was asking is because, like, all right, fine. Bridges has seen, you know, even just looking at field goal attempts and a clear lack of free throw opportunities as well. Like, you look back on, you know, since the All-Star break, and he's got what over his last 6, 12, 14, 14, 13, 10 field goal attempts, 26 against Atlanta. That's where he finally exploded. But he's just been well below average recently. What if this just ends up being one of those games where Bridges has to take on a much bigger workload because there's really nobody else there? Because if he doesn't do it, then you have to expect significant usage for a guy like Dennis Schroeder.
Yeah, I should actually pull those rates and see what Bridges looks like when Lonnie Walker isn't able to be a part of all of this, because I'm guessing he gets a bit of a usage bump. But yeah, he's been at 0.92 DraftKings points per minute over the past 30 days. We're talking about a guy that's normally at a fantasy point per minute or higher. So he has been incredibly underwhelming lately. I'm trying to see if I have this pulled up in my history. I don't. I didn't pull Brooklyn today.
All right. I mean, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't think I have the time to pull this efficiently for us. I really want to see. I have a sneaky suspicion that when I take Walker off, Bridges' usage rate is going to go from like 25 to 28, and that's going to take him from he's interesting to oh shit, he's way more interesting.
Yeah, again, Lonnie Walker's actually a huge piece here, so we'll see. Yeah. 7:00 game. You've got live before lock. Any with that, we should get that news. Well, we will get the news prior to lock. Maybe we get it on this show, and if we do, we can circle back. But you know, in a spot like this, do we get the advantage for Nick Claxton, because not only is Daron Sharp out, but Ben Simmons isn't going to be playing backup center minutes either.
I get an extra 1.5% usage to Bridges with no Walker. So Watford's sitting there. They just don't ever want to give him enough minutes behind Claxton. And that's the only, like, I'm getting a little bit of him because since we have no Sharp, but the most we've seen of Trendon Watford in the past 2 months happened early February. He played 26.5 minutes on February 8th. He played 25.5 minutes on February 14th. But since then, he's either been like not a part of the rotation. And to be fair, like once Daron Sharp came back, Trendon Watford's days were pretty numbered. It's going to take some sort of negative experience for Nick Claxton. Like when Watford got 26 minutes on the 8th, Claxton played 25 minutes. When Watford got 25 minutes on the 14th, Nick Claxton played 21 minutes. So it's going to take Claxton just simply not being able to be out there to really realize, I think, the peak of Trendon Watford. But 3,100 power forward center, there's certainly some value.
Anybody else we're looking at for Brooklyn?
Not really. You know, I have a couple shares of Jalen Wilson just because he's cheap and going to play a couple extra minutes. DSJ is certainly viable at 4,300 and gets even more interesting if we lose Lonnie Walker. By the way, Tyson or Jake Paul, who wins? Chat's talking about it again.
All right. Well, first of all, you could not be more wrong about this. You, I'm not surprised that you would take this stance, but it's wildly misguided. Do I think that this matchup is stupid? Yeah, obviously. But Jake Paul, and you know, people talk a lot of shit on him, and you know, in some cases, rightfully so, right? Dude is incredible at marketing himself. There's just no denying it.
No disagreement.
He knows that Mike Tyson could be 75. And if you throw him in the ring against him on Netflix, everyone's going to talk shit. And then guess what? Everyone's going to go, oh, wait, that fight's on tonight. I'm tuning into this live on Netflix. It's just going to happen, right? Like, we know that's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree, by the way.
Okay. Anybody willing to position themselves as the heel every time? Like, he is making millions of dollars every single time that he fights, just going into it, going like, I know everyone wants me to lose. And he's okay with that because it makes him a ton of money. I'm not saying I think it's a cool fight, but you better believe I'm going to watch it.
I will not watch it unless Tyson wins, and I'll go back and watch it.
Okay.
I think he's going to get hurt.
No.
Yeah.
Iron Mike, dude, what are you, crazy?
Yeah, he's going to get destroyed.
Nah, he's going to catch him in round 2.
He's never going to get to him.
Here's the thing, though. If Tyson doesn't drop Jake Paul by like the end of round 2, the stamina's gone. Like, there's no way. But
Mike Tyson's last victory was February 22nd, 2003.
Okay. What's a couple decades, brother?
Yeah. He'll be 58.
Someone's got to get him some adrenochrome. Anyway,
hey, I mean, he's obviously going to be taking everything under the sun to make it into that ring. But so is Jake. That's the problem. Like, if Tyson's juiced to the gills, you got to understand that so is Jake Paul.
Got to give them whatever they give these decrepit U.S. presidents over it, just that keeps them alive and talking and coherent for small stretches of time. That's what we need.
They'll be turning them into a punching bag.
We'll see. All right. Detroit side. I will say, Cade Cunningham in this specific spot looks pretty nice today. I know that Brooklyn, while they've been bad, they don't exactly play the fastest pace. Defense hasn't been the biggest weakness, but this is a pure skeleton crew team. You've got Cade coming in at a mid 7K price point today.
I love Detroit today, and I think I'm in like a very big minority. I don't know why. You don't often see the Pistons being 2-point underdogs, so this is actually like an oddly competitive matchup. I'm taking like tiny GPP stands on half of this team. I have 28% of Cade. It's projected for 17% ownership. 1.25 fantasy points per minute. He's been playing better as of late. I've got 15% of Beef Stew. He's 6% owned. He's been playing 32 minutes a night in the games that he's been back. Power forward center. It's not like Brooklyn's any threat. Jalen Duren is in 13% of my lineups. He's 8% owned. Simone Fontecchio is in 16% of my lineups. He's 7% owned. Asar Thompson is in 20% of my lineups. He's 6% owned. This is my GPP team. I'm like 2xing the field on everybody real for the Pistons today.
I have to say,
didn't expect it.
No, but it is a great spot for Cade. There's no denying. I have to point something out. Lewis said, it's one of the most utterly pathetic displays of cowardice I've ever seen in my entire life. He preys on retired sports athletes who have sustained a career's worth of injuries. Okay.
No.
Okay. Remember when Jake Paul fought Ben Askren?
Mm-hmm.
Ben Askren got paid $500,000, which was the biggest payday of any fight of his career. Ben Askren went in there saying, I don't care what happens. I'm making $500,000. It is not predatory at all. These guys don't need it. Nobody's putting a gun to their head and saying, step in the ring and fight old Jakey here. No, these guys are champing at the bit to get in the ring because they're getting paid more than they have for any. But seriously, a lot of these guys are getting paid more for fighting Jake Paul in an exhibition fight than they have in any fight of their careers. They do this. They never have to fight again. But like, you do this, you catch $500,000, you're sitting comfortably for a little while.
And there's no chance Mike Tyson is doing this for less than 7 figures.
No way, dude. This is on Netflix.
Hard to say what's like I mean, like the real information is not going to get out for
He's
the
getting paid seven
20.
figures for this without question.
He won't even entertain it for anything less than that.
No. So I don't think
And
it's
I wouldn't be
credible.
surprised if Netflix had like a, hey, when we see the data, we might cut Iron Mike a little bit of an extra check just in case.
Yeah. Yeah. These guys can say no. Anyway, whatever.
He's gonna get hurt. He's gonna get hurt.
Maybe we'll have a side bet on that because I do not think he will at all.
Well, Jake Paul's minus 500.
Oh, I think Jake Paul wins. I mean, he should win, but yeah. Anyway,
I mean, like to get hit by Jake Paul is not going to be a good thing for the 58-year-old Mike Tyson. We can say whatever we want about like Jake Paul's boxing ability. Yeah, I don't think he's going to be winning like the heavyweight title or whatever division he'd be in anytime soon. He's not a scrub. He knows how to throw punches with very vicious hands.
Dude, books are going to take so is this on any, this isn't on any traditional, like
Bovada has like plus 10,000 on one of them gets bit.
Okay, so hold on a second. Will you don't think like FanDuel, DraftKings offer something like this, right?
I don't know if they've had the fight. I don't know if they've had the fights before.
Me neither. What I do know is if they do, these books are going to rake in so much money on Tyson. Like,
yeah,
the amount of people that are betting Tyson,
and then the line will never move.
Never. No. What's going to happen is it will move. It will move more towards Jake Paul.
Yeah, well, yeah, they're gonna know where the dumb money is real quick.
Dude, I'm telling you, this is what's gonna happen. Same thing, shit with like Conor McGregor against Mayweather. People want a certain guy to win. Whatever. Anyway, anything else for Detroit you want to get to? Because I'm with you. Cade looks really nice today.
I've got 5 guys in 15% or more of my lineups, and I couldn't be happier about it. For once, it's a sneaky Detroit spot, so sign me up.
All right. And sorry, because I have to keep muting my mic so you don't echo over here on playback. So if I'm delayed, as I'm not usually am, I don't know.
Oh, is it because you wait, do you not have AirPods in?
No, not right now.
You're listening through the speaker. There's your problem.
Yeah, but it never happens when we do it through Zoom, and I've done that forever.
Different audio.
Yeah, clearly. Yeah. We'll fix that for next time. Anyway, let's keep it moving here. Next one up. You've got Miami and Dallas. So Miami Heat here are going to be one of the lower owned teams today against Dallas. I will say though, Dallas defensive rating over the last month has been egregiously bad.
They have not been good. It's almost like PJ Washington isn't that good defensively, even though they brought him in. And now Daniel Gafford plays 14 minutes a game. Great trades, by the way, for the Mavs. Morons.
So since the trade deadline, the Mavs have, oh, hold on a second. Over the last month, I think it was, the Mavs have one of the worst defense. I can't find it now. I'd have to pull it up on the fly, but playing fast, bad defense right now. I guess the question is, does that still make anything from Miami particularly interesting today?
Not really. I got a little bit of Bam, but only 13%, nothing crazy. Everybody else is single digits. We have Jimmy Butler 10% owned. Like it's shut up, Siri. Not a lot. It's just like Jaime Jaquez looks okay. He's unowned. Terry Rozier looks okay. He's 7% owned. The 2 guys that I have the most are Bam Adebayo and Caleb Martin, but those aren't exactly big stands.
What about Dallas on the other side? Outside of Luka, there's no ownership really going anywhere.
You only really have 2.5 options. It's Luka, it's Kyrie, and then
Lonnie Walker's available, by the way.
Good. I didn't want to deal with that. And then there's PJ Washington. 19% ownership coming into Luka. I'm not really getting him. I'm more of a Jokic guy today, and I'm much more of a Kevin Durant guy today. But obviously, if you want to pay up for Luka Doncic at 12-2, I don't think it's crazy. 17% optimal in our last boom bust tool. Clearly the best option from Dallas.
Only option from Dallas?
Kyrie's all right at 8,700. I don't have a problem with that.
All right, so this game ultimately a wash for the most part.
I mean, the Miami side to me is a lot better than Dallas, but it's relative. Like Dallas is basically a 1.5 man team. Whereas all of the dudes that are like regular pieces of the rotation for Miami, Bam, Martin, Duncan Robinson, Jaquez, Butler, Rozier. We're talking about a pace-up spot for Miami against a pretty shitty defense. Like that's appealing to a degree. There's just so many better spots on today's slate that they don't get the sort of love that they deserve.
All right, well then we got to get to this Toronto game because they're 10-point dogs against Phoenix, and Barnes is done. You've got Jakob Poeltl out as well for an extended period of time. I don't even think he has a timetable to return. Not that this team was going anywhere, but no. Kelly Olynyk is a 10-point road dog against the Devin Bookerless Suns. 6,800, 16% ownership. And then besides that, it's a little bit going to quickly. That's pretty much it. The thing about Kelly Olynyk is when you look at how he's been doing this recently, and then you look at that last start without Jakob Poeltl, yeah, 15 points, but not a ton of usage, although he did get to the line 7 times. The most interesting thing to me is in that last game, Kelly Olynyk led the Raptors in potential assists. I think sometimes people are unaware of he's actually a good passing big man that's going to get a lot of opportunities as a playmaker. Now, is that enough to pay almost $7K for him today against the Phoenix Suns as big dogs in a potential blowout? For a guy that's, an okay but not spectacular rebounder and isn't going to see a ton of usage. I mean, I suppose it's fine, but I'll be honest. I was a little bit surprised to see at almost 7K, he was pulling 16%.
We got an update 8 minutes ago. He is pulling half that.
Well, that makes sense then. Because I saw that, I'm like, how?
You sniffed that one out like a truffle pig, man. Good work.
That seemed high to me. I know he has power forward center eligibility, but still, like you've got a lot of other options today that are at similar price points, and that's a tough spot to get to.
By the way, we now have Gobert 13% optimal, 18% owned, very sizable negative leverage, much more in line with where I was getting him.
Yeah. Okay. So we're just sniffing everything out throughout this one.
We certainly are. Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Let me refresh this too. While I do so, I'll ask you, what's the ownership then to the rest of Toronto? Because I can't imagine much of it's gone up. Yeah.
No, 8% to Olynyk, 4% to Quickly. Nothing else going on here. We do have the issue of Ochai Agbaji here, though. If he ends up out, then we're going to end up liking something from Toronto, whether that's Jordan Nwora at 3,900 or whatever a Javon Freeman Liberty is, or a DJ Carton. Both of those people, I'm not confident are real people, but someone has to play a bunch more minutes. Maybe you get Grady Dick playing 30 minutes. Maybe you get, I don't know, someone else that is on this team, that Jalen McDaniels, whatever McDaniels isn't on the Wolves. They're going to have to play somebody at the 3 if Agbaji doesn't get the start here. So that will create a little bit of value, but this is not a team that's looking very good today.
Nope, not at all. Do you have any Olynyk right now?
5%.
All right. About probably where you should be in a spot like this.
I think so.
Listen, I'm not even saying he can't get there. I'm just saying the way that he's been getting there recently has been through wild peripherals and, 4 stocks and stuff like that. That's hard to sustain for sure. And we've seen that with guys like Olynyk. He can completely disappear. Yeah, he can pull a Houdini at any given moment. So let's go to Phoenix then, because listen, dude, this is a good spot for Phoenix. No Devin Booker. Sure, Bradley Beal's been back. He's 6,900 pulling 16%. Durant's getting 19. Nurkic is getting 14. How about Nurkic too? 32 and 30 minutes over his last 2 games. And if you look at that last one, it was an overtime game, but he fouled out a few minutes before they even went to overtime. And that was 30 minutes played. So he was on his way to playing, barring any, unforeseen circumstances, probably a whole lot more minutes on top of the 30 that he played.
Well, let's hope he doesn't play any of those minutes today, because I have his under on Prize Picks and I'm won back-to-back cards.
Well, that's good. I mean, he can still get those minutes. You can still get there. Why? Are you under the assumption that we're going to see his minutes trend back down, and that last game they decided, like, let's just get him, he's our, not to say that Yusuf Nurkic is a defensive juggernaut, but going up against Nikola Jokic, they need to have a competent center out there?
No, I just want him to stink is all. Nothing more. I have 15% of him on our last run. I do think he looks solid here at 7,200. Certainly a good spot against Kelly Olynyk and Jonte Porter. So no problem at all getting to Nurk. But I am very, very interested in Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant. I have 36% of Durant. I have 31% of Beal. I would bet their overs in props. When I ran rates for these guys with no Booker around, playing alongside of the guys that are here, massive usage and assist rate bumps that don't appear to be matching up with where the market is right now. I've tried to walk it back a little bit, but I'm going to be 2x the field on both of these guys. They do exactly what you would expect them to do when Devin Booker's not around, to me. I've got Durant at 1.47 DraftKings points per minute. That is an outlier for today. Similar story for Bradley Beal at 1.16. They're in, like I said, north of 30% of my lineups, 2xing the field right now. I want you guys to join me on the Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal bandwagons for today. But I'm also getting to a neutral amount of Royce O'Neal, same neutral amount of Yusuf Nurkic, and a little bit of Grayson Allen. Toronto's been dreadful defensively. Give me all of Phoenix when Devin Booker's not around. Like, I mean, that's a giant change. I'm surprised they're not more popular.
Yeah, I'm surprised they're not more popular either. I thought they would be, but they're all still getting ownership. Like, you've got four guys in double digits, right? So there's still something there. Man, Nurkic averaged essentially a rebound per minute 2 games ago.
When he had 31?
31 rebounds. Bradley Beal sub 7K, point guard, shooting guard, no Devin Booker, Kevin Durant. I mean, the biggest concern here is that this game just gets out of control. I'll tell you what, I thought the total might even be a little bit higher just based on how much of a sieve this Toronto team has been. But I guess when you've got a double-digit spread, that's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that this doesn't become problematic. Or, like, if it does. So this is a one where, like, it's not like Phoenix has a great defense. So my assumption is if they blow them out, that they blow them out offensively. I just reran all of my stuff. 43% Beal, 31% Durant, up to 21% Nurkic. So I'm getting to more of Phoenix than I was earlier now.
Yeah, and I'm looking at our Sims run, 41% your use of Nurkic right now. So that's significant. We're actually in this run under Jordan. Is this with the new updated ownership and everything? It's not. Well, I mean, I'm looking up at the top. Ownership last updated 224. So I know you ran it again. It might have just updated on the site before it updated on the Sims. Do me a favor. Can you just go to this again? Let me see where the last update was. Yeah, so we're still waiting on that. I mean, my guess, Josh, is that a lot is going to change if we saw ownership drop so heavily on several players just in that last updated run.
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty big swing, in my opinion.
I would say so. Anyway, oh, by the way, Sims Tool, 50% off. 50% off first week.
Yeah.
Not only that, but only doing this on live shows. This isn't something that we're putting out everywhere. This is just if you're one of the live viewers that has watched these shows for a long time now, you hang out for the strategy show, the deeper dive, live before lock, all that stuff. We figure why not do something for everybody that's always watching these shows, supporting them, hopefully hitting that thumbs up. But more than anything else, 50%. I think this is the biggest one we've done since like Black Friday. So yeah, if you haven't gotten in on that yet, you've been on the fence. You're like, look, I want to try it, but I don't know if my volume can justify it right now. I don't know if I want to do it. I got burned by another site. Here you go. 50% off the entire Sims package, any single sport you want, which by the way, doesn't just get you the contest generator, the Sims, the late swap feature, the post contest sim, but also our ownership projections, player projections, boom bust tool, Discord, premium Discord, lineup, everything on the site. Everything on the site. If you go single sport, whatever you want, 50% off. So link in the description, link in the chat if you want to check that out. And as always, just be sure to check out Craig's tutorials that he did with Steve Buzzard, the Colts, one of the best DFS players ever. Before you use it, it's super simple. I mean, we've had guys like Tommy win 113K in NFL and just go, well, I clicked 3 buttons. So it's doable, but you definitely want to understand exposures and ROI boosts and actually get how the Sims work. Cause it's different. It's different than an optimizer by far, a lot different. Am I forgetting
it's the
anything?
Best way to get. Yeah. So the best part of all of this is the price. It's $30 for the week to get our NBA DFS max package. Like, I know people probably see the prices from time to time and are just like, I can't bite that bullet. $30 to get in for the week and to finally see what it looks like to have every single thing from the stochastic side in the Sims tool fully unlocked, all the projections, all the ownership, all the boom busts. $30 is nice. Down from 60, like that's you when you see it like that, it really looks stark. But $30 is worth a trial.
Yeah, man. Check it out. Link in the description and in chat. Jordan, it looks like we got ownership updates. Yeah, we're good. Oh, you know what? You did run the new one. I'm dumb. Josh, I was looking at 216 and 224, entirely forgetting that Jordan was on the West Coast. I'm looking at mine. I'm like, shit, man, the 16 and the 24 are correct, but why does his say 2? That makes sense. All right, so everything you ran is correct, Jordan. Everything you ran is correct. I'm done.
The simplest of minds over here.
Ignore me. Well, I gotta fucking mute my mic on playback every time you talk. So, yeah. To say
well, it's
I've
not
been
my fault that this is the first time
preoccupied.
you learned about time zones.
Boston and Denver. I'm in the only one that matters. Boston and Denver. Celtics -1. Yeah, -1 on the road. 220.5 total. How weird of a sport is this? Like, I'm not trying to get us off track, but we have plenty of time, and there's a few spots that we're not going to get into. Like, well, wait till we get to Chicago and Golden State. But Boston at home against Golden State comes in and just beats the brakes off of them, right? Like 52-point win to the point where Steve Kerr tells his starters, don't even come back out. And then a couple of days later, the Celtics, who got smoked by 52, go in and play the Bucks and eviscerate them. It's an 82-game season. It's a weird sport. None of that stuff in the postseason makes a difference, but in the regular season, my God, dude, some of these wins and losses, I should say, by actually good teams have been startling lately.
This is a fantastic game. I hope it doesn't look anything like a blowout. I want this to be knockdown, drag out from start to finish. I mean, this is title preview, right? Like this is
yeah. I mean, I would assume that if you pulled the odds up to make the finals right now,
it's overwhelmingly these two teams
in the respective conferences. I can't imagine there's any other teams that are there right now, right? There just can't be.
And I think it's definitely the series that everybody wants to see too. Like, what more do you want here? I love it.
So conference winner, Boston -110. Nuggets +220. Clippers actually neck and neck with the Nuggets right now. And then there's
FanDuel has it +185, +250 Nuggets and Clippers.
Okay, it's still very close.
Yeah, mostly a seeding thing, I believe.
I mean, the Celtics aren't just favored against the field; they're favored.
Yeah, I don't know. Denver's up to the projected 3 seed on dunks and threes. That's interesting.
Yeah, Clippers though. If you're on DraftKings, shop around though for sure if you're looking to get better odds on some of these. Because
how would you shop around for things in sports betting?
Oh, the old oddshopper.com, baby.
Never heard of it. Tell me more.
Yeah. I just did a great video on that, breaking everything down today. It's amazing how far we've come with those tools, man. But yeah.
I get to start using them on Monday, baby.
I know. Yeah. Oh, BetMGM, Bet365. If you're in North Carolina, did you do the pre-reg for those?
Not yet. I'm going to do it tomorrow. No, I'm going to do it. Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah. You pre-reg on BetMGM and you get $200. You don't even have to deposit. You just pre-reg. Links down in the description and chat. Bet365 is deposit 10, get 100 in bonus bets. Bet 5 when they launch, get another 200 in bonus bets. So, yeah, if you're in North Carolina, don't sign up after they launch. Sign up pre-registration before March 11th. Be sure to do that. Got to be 21 years or older. If you have a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Enough of the reads. Let's talk Boston and Denver. So, Boston Celtics. Right now, Jaylen Brown is still questionable, right? I haven't seen anything to suggest otherwise.
He came out and said that he would be a game time decision. Yeah,
so that's a thing. Because right now, if you were to just assume that Jaylen Brown is going to play, this team has 6% ownership going to Jason Tatum, traveling out to Denver in altitude, and that's it. 6% to Porzingis, 5% to Jaylen Brown, just kind of like sprinkled in what you're going to see across lineups. Similar to, the Pacers we talked about earlier in that tough matchup against Minnesota. What if Jaylen Brown sits? That's the more interesting part here.
I still don't think it matters all that much. Like, obviously, we're going to get to a little bit more Jason Tatum, a little bit more Drew Holiday, a little bit more Porzingis, a little bit more Derek White. But we're still talking about the number 10 defense, the number 27 in pace, 27 team in pace, and they're going to elevation. Like, none of these guys are just going to immediately start popping off the page. I like Jason Tatum a little bit. I have 5%. He's 9% optimal, 6% owned. Like, those numbers aren't going to go up a lot if we lose Jaylen Brown here, but they will go up incrementally. Nothing from Boston is going to look anything better than solid, no matter what happens.
What about Denver then? Because it's not exactly a good matchup for Denver. Sure, they're at home. But I mean, you have Luka Doncic on this slate. He's pulling double digits. Jokic is only getting 9%, clearly only center eligible, 11-4. So he is 800 less, at least on DraftKings, than Luka Doncic. But Jamal Murray's $7,700. So this is what I want to dive into a little bit. If, both of us love Cade, you said you're getting 26% Cunningham right now. The point guard position does have, a little bit of mid-range value, not a ton, because it's Cunningham and then a bunch of other guys that aren't pulling much. Bradley Beal, but he has shooting guard eligibility. We'll get to a few other guys. Dennis Schroeder at 61. So I guess there is still room to get to some Jamal Murray here. I would say actually the mid-range at this position is less deep than it's been in a while, unless you want to count De'Aaron Fox at 8,500 as mid-range.
29% Jamal Murray for me, 14% owned. He's been at 1.2 DraftKings points per minute over the past 30 days. I gave him 35 minutes today. So it's not even that Cade ownership, nothing like that. It's not stopping me from getting to Murray. Him and Jokic are the only two guys you can play here. 9% owned Jokic, 14% owned Murray. Next highest guy is Michael Porter Jr. at 1.7. I have 20% of Jokic, by the way. I am getting to those two guys. I wish I was getting a little bit more of Boston just for the balance, but I'm not. But I am getting to the two best things you can get to from Denver, and that feels pretty good.
Say Boston again.
Boston?
You came in with the heavy Boston accent the first time. You came in with a
Did I?
Boston. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I thought it might have been intentional, but I suppose it wasn't.
I mean, maybe it was when I did it, but I didn't like think about it.
All right. Bulls. Golden State. Has to be lowest owned game on the slate, and potentially not potentially.
It is.
Definitely is. And
do you want to hear how really ridiculous it is? If you add their ownership together, it's the second lowest number.
So I was gonna say potentially, and then not potentially, but by a wide margin. I mean, 8-point spread, Warriors big favorites at home, but 223.5 point total. Chicago plays slow. There's just not a ton to like here. I mean, 4% Vooch, Caruso, 3% Kobe White. Even on the other side of this one, though, you're going to be real hard pressed in a sluggish matchup getting the Steph Curry at 9K when you've got $8,500 De'Aaron Fox against the San Antonio Spurs today, right? When you've got Cade Cunningham at 7,600 going up against a skeleton crew Nets team. Jamal Murray, as you pointed out, been playing particularly well. Going to get to him at 75 or 7,700. How do you prioritize these type of guys today on Golden State?
You don't prioritize the guys on Chicago, I can tell you that much, but you less than prioritize the guys on Golden State. 2% owned Steph. He's 4.5% optimal. I don't have a single share of a Warrior. Not one. And I don't even think it's close.
What are you doing with Chicago? Because I know it's not quite as bad, but it's still not good.
No, it is not. And it's basically the same scenario. 4% ownership to Nikola Vucevic is the high mark. He's also 7% optimal. I have 5% of Caruso, 1 share of Kobe White. It's equally as awful on the Chicago side. But Chicago gets the good part of the matchup. At least Golden State plays fast, but these guys have just been playing 38 minutes a night for so long that they're all sort of already priced where they're supposed to be. So there is no value to be found in this game. It's terrible. If Toronto loses Ochai Agbaji and they get a little bit more value, this game added together will still be the lowest total ownership.
Well, then I guess it all comes down to San Antonio and Sacramento here. We can spend some real time on this game for sure.
We can.
We're gonna have to.
Sorry, I had to open up the office door. My dog was whining at me.
You're good, man. Let's talk about San Antonio. Wemby's out. So Zach Collins is pulling a lot of ownership today. He's 76% on DraftKings right now. On FanDuel, Zach Collins is 28%, but that's also because you're talking about a $6,100 price point. Power forward, center eligible, yes, and still on FanDuel, Devin Vassell, Trey Jones, Collins, all getting some ownership. But DraftKings made no adjustments to price, $4,300. You're talking about a guy that is projected to be owned by more than 3/4 of the field on a 7-game slate. What do we have his optimal rate at in our boom bust tool? I can pull it up too, but you may have it.
49.
Okay. Oh,
50,
solid.
50.
What's that?
50-50.
Yeah. I mean, at this rate though, it's good. Yeah, it's solid -27 leverage here.
Yeah.
But even with that in mind, Josh, like this guy is a north of a fantasy point per minute producer on the season. The Kings are not a stout front court defensively.
No.
You know, Domantas Sabonis is not scaring anybody.
No.
Yeah, he's a good rebounder, of course, but it's hard to look at Zach Collins at almost 4K and not be like, hey, that's a really, really, really good spot. Like one of the best you'll see all year.
He's in everything that I have.
Yep.
Like I barely have anything to add here. 1.13 DraftKings points per minute over the past month. Talking about a guy with like a 23% usage rate. This is not like some scrub stepping. Well, I mean, like he's whatever, but he's not some guy that is like a 12% usage guy that's not involved. Assuming he plays like 28 minutes or something, and even if he doesn't, you don't really need it all. You need him to like hit his projection today, and even then, it's like a little bit lighter than that. It's the easiest thing you're going to do today, but not the only guy that's getting a lot of love from San Antonio. 25 to 30% ownership on Devin Vassell, Jeremy Sohan, and Keldon Johnson. I have a stand of those three, and that would be Keldon Johnson, 4,900, small forward, power forward, big time usage bump with no Wemby around. Certainly minutes to go around if he needs them. They've already been ramping back up as of late. I've got him over a fantasy point per minute in this spot against Sacramento. He's in 79% of my lineup. So give me lots of Zach Collins. Give me lots of Keldon Johnson.
Jordan, what exposure do we have to the Spurs right now in the Sims? Are you rerunning it? Okay. How far out are we? It only takes a minute, but you just start it? Okay. Okay. My guess, Josh, is with 150 lineups. If I had to guess, just knowing how the Sims work, knowing that Zach Collins is $4,300 against the Kings, my guess is we're going to have like 99.5%.
Yeah, you are. And you should. He's incredible. This is a 7-player slate tonight on DraftKings, more or less.
Are there ways that you're getting yes, you actually, I don't want to overlook what you just said because it kind of does feel that way, right? You've got, and now Lonnie Walker's in. So you're saying 7 players as far as the highest ownership, right? Across the slate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Collins, Anderson, Lonnie Walker, Vassell, Bridges. Bridges is up to 28%. Jeremy Sohan. The only one that scares the shit out of me every time, it's not Lonnie Walker. I mean, that's against Detroit. They don't have a lot of high usage options. Zach Collins, if you lose because you played Zach Collins, so be it. Kyle Anderson, I'm very uncomfortable with Kyle Anderson being 56%.
He's the one that scares me the most, if I'm being honest.
Who, Anderson?
Yeah.
That's what I just said. Yeah. He's the one that scares me by far, but he should.
He's my biggest negative player ROI guy, where it's just like, am I going to still end up jamming this dude? Like, he's the one that stands out as weird. Like, Zach Collins is a no-brainer to me. Some of the other guys that are pulling a ton of ownership, like, I understand why it's all happening. I get the Kyle Anderson one. I think he's also the easiest guy to get away from, but I doubt that I end up getting away from him.
Yeah. But if there was one that I'd be most willing to get away from, it's going to be Kyle Anderson. We'll see. We'll see how this one goes. Breaking down just the rest of the Spurs team. I know you already talked about a bunch of them, but outside of Zach Collins, the ownership going to, let's see. I'm trying to see. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 4 of the top highest owned players on this slate are San Antonio Spurs.
And I think to a degree they should be. Like, the amount of usage that Wemby is leaving out there is massive. We're talking about a 30% usage guy. So like everybody's getting a bit of a bump. I like Vassell, but he's already 7,300. Like he's not a problem to me. I have 13% of him, but I am a little lighter than that 29% ownership. Same situation for Jeremy Sohan. Like he projects well. I have him over 0.9 DraftKings points per minute, but he's still only in 16% of my lineups, even though he's 27% owned. It's Keldon Johnson for me. He's in 79% of my lineups. He's 25% owned. I just think he's live. Like I gave him a minute and a half more than we did, and that's causing me to get to a ton, but I don't want to get away from it at all. I think he looks fantastic. Given the minutes that he's been playing as of late, we saw him pick up 33 and a half last time out, played 27 and a half the game before that, but 31 and 34 in the 2 previous games there. I only went to 29. He could easily play 31, 32, 33 in this spot with no Wemby. I think he's one of the easiest guys to want to roster today.
You know the highest fantasy point DraftKings point per minute player on the Spurs is with Wemby off the floor?
No.
It is Zach Collins.
Okay.
Yeah. Zach Collins.
Okay. Huh. I mean, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, I can rerun this because sometimes add more funds gets weird and it'll run it, but it won't be the right thing. And you have to like, I'm sure you know this. You had to run it again. It's a great tool. It's a great free tool. Shout out to those guys. But
is it free?
And it's free.
I feel like I pay for it.
They have a premium version of it, but I think it's just like a Patreon type deal. Either way, yes, Zach Collins 1.12 DraftKings points per minute in 770 minutes with Wemby off the floor this season, and he's 4,300. So there's that. Hey, by the way, guys, if you could be so kind, and maybe you've forgotten, but we're coming up on Live Before a Lock, and these fellas are going to shoot over to playback for the post-lock show all the way up to 8, maybe even later. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. Josh, we're like 200 away from 500, but I still think it's possible that there may just be 200 people that simply forgot.
Well, not even that, but like that's 190 people right now that are not going to be able to see Live Before Lock. If they don't hit the thumbs up, the screen just goes black. You might be able to get the audio, but you are not able to see this stream if you do not like this video and we get to Live Before Lock. So if you're here and you're watching, make sure you're hitting that thumbs up.
It's the wildest gimmick I've ever heard. I can't believe it actually worked on people. I can't believe it. But it did.
You should believe it.
Anyway, Sacramento Kings. Hey, De'Aaron Fox recently has been spectacular. Look, not trying to just cherry pick here, but you look over his last 7 games, he's about around like close to 1.4 fantasy points per minute, big minutes, massive usage, close to 35%. He's $8,500 against the San Antonio Spurs, who are without Victor Wembanyama. I get why De'Aaron Fox is pulling 26% ownership.
Seems light. I got 45. Yeah. Give me De'Aaron Fox, baby. Big amounts. 8,500, 1.3 DraftKings points per minute over the past month. And now he gets a matchup against the number 22 defense, the number 2 team in pace. Oh, by the way, they took Wemby off the floor. The defense is not going to get any better in that situation. I'm quite confident in that. Love getting to De'Aaron Fox here. He's starting to finally come into form. Have no problem getting to Sabonis. Have no problem getting to a little bit of Keegan Murray as a GPP play. Malik Monk looks totally fine at 6,300. Keep your eyes peeled on Kevin Huerter and Harrison Barnes. Both of those guys in their last game only played their rotations at the beginning of the first and third quarter and didn't play at all after that. Something to monitor moving forward. I don't know what to do with that.
So essentially you're getting a lot of Fox and then just a bit elsewhere. Because
I mean, I have 10% of Sabonis, of Keegan Murray, and of Malik Monk.
Yeah.
So not insignificant.
No, not at all. But Fox clearly the high. Look, Fox shouldn't be $8,500 in this matchup. I think we can agree on that. Like this is a 9K spot in this matchup. Certainly feels.
Oh
like
yeah, for sure. I mean, that's why you see him pulling 26% ownership on a day like today at 8,500. He's just a couple $100 underpriced for what this is and what this matchup is.
Yep. Anyway, appreciate you guys saying we're 24 likes away. I assume by the time Live Before Lock gets on, you guys will have done your job, and we will appreciate you for that. Fellow Josh at Josh Engleman, me, Loughy_D. We got who's coming? Is it Greg and Eric coming up next? Is that the same?
No idea. I assume so. Yeah.
All right. Jordan, going once. Greg and Eric coming up next. Then the playback. Guys, have a great night. We'll catch you back here tomorrow on the Deeper Dive to close out the work week. Peace. We're back, baby. Another edition of the Stochastic Hall of Fame. We're inducting you fine people into it and giving away a ton of Stochastic memberships along the way. All you got to do to get involved, to get your free month, any Stochastic package of your choice up to $200, is download the Stochastic profile picture at stochastic.com/avatar and tweet your wins at Stochastic HOF. If you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, you're in. So let's get it started. Michael Diaz. Good night despite missing lock. I assume Live Before Lock. Over 5K in wins. Have a great All-Star weekend, everybody. And let's get on to the second half, followed by Ben P. I love this one. I was a skeptic when I had to switch from my usual process to the Stochastic Sims, but I'm officially all in. If you're not a pro and not using this tool, you're paying the rake. Just an awesome, awesome night from Ben P. Shout out to Ben and congrats on the wins. Then our own Tom Kennedy, just on an absolute tear of late, talking about Ben. It's been awesome to get these messages from Ben and everyone else. We knew our Sims were the future, but caught a lot of flack for forcing, in quotes, people to use it. See our users loving the new process. Taking down tournament after tournament this year has been incredible. Got a couple of my own with the tool this past weekend and Thursday. Yeah, a couple would be an understatement. $200,000 wins for Tom. And our friend Jorge, just right behind the big boss. This Sims tool should receive an award because the tools and people behind it are just the best in the market. Another $3,000 win for Jorge on a heater of his own lately. Dave DeMattis, Sims tool for the win. Payout isn't huge, but I'll absolutely take it in a field of 35,000 entries. Thanks for all you guys do. It's Stochastic, and keep up the great work. And Sean Geezy back at it again. Actually, matter of fact, Jordan and I had deleted a few of Sean's over the past couple of weeks just because there were so many of them and we didn't have room, and he's up here every week. But second and fourth in the mini-max tonight. If only Fox could have played final 2 minutes. Shout out to the Stochastic team. Sean keeps rolling. Travis, Woolston, EMAC. How about the personal shout out to EMAC? EMAC, been a Stochastic listener for many years. Your info helped me ship 50K last night. A 50K shout out to EMAC. Shout out to Travis as well. PG18, second showdown win in 2 weeks. You weren't kidding, Lobby. The Sims tools crushed the showdown slates. Best tool in the business, $2,400 takedown for PG or Poker God 18. And Tim in Milford. Hey, Tim in Milford. At Stochastic, let's go. $1,000 win in the high five for Tim. And Dave Oliver back. Always Army. $2,800 win. Unbeatable content matched with Sims and live show. You guys are the best. Thank you again. Congrats, Dave. Mike Sobey, it was a good day at Riv. $10,000, second place in the Eagle to Mike. And then it's Jay Burke, $200 right there. Simple at Stochastic HOF. The Stochastic Avatar, second place as well. And Brent Lindsay, not a huge win, but I'll take it. $300, second in the
playback stream, or else I was going to hear your audio twice.
Mine? Well, that's on you yet again.
It is on me. I'm all good though.
I'm all good.
Yes, the countdown. What is happening, everybody? Welcome to another NBA Live Before Lock. If you guys have not done it yet, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Shout out to BetMGM, who is sponsoring our show. If you guys live in North Carolina and you've not taken advantage of the BetMGM sign-up deposit deal, you really are missing out, because next week we are going to see BetMGM sports betting go live in North Carolina. And the easiest way for you guys to help build your bankroll in sports betting, if you're living in North Carolina, simply sign up at BetMGM using the link we have below. Because when you do and you pre-register an account, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets waiting for you when sports betting goes live in North Carolina. So take advantage of that. Sign up with the link that we have below. If you anybody know has a gambling problem, call or text the number 1-800-GAMBLER. Eric, what's happening today, man?
Not much. Chris Williams just starting things off in a hot way. Gifted out 5 subs because he is the man. Guys in playback, guys in the YouTube chat, guys everywhere. We appreciate you, Chris. This is an interesting slate. I'm going to play it a little bit lighter than normal. I don't love jamming all the Spurs and having a free square or, barring injury or massive foul trouble or something, a free square. It just feels like a very, very wonky slate where something early is going to break that you just absolutely need. Kind of eyeing Brooklyn, Detroit as maybe some spots to pluck some low owned value. There's Jokic, there's Doncic up top. But, I mean, the Spurs and Kings game just makes this whole slate really wonky. You're going to have all the swappability throughout the entire evening. You only have 3 games early before an hour and a half break. So I'm not super enthusiastic. I love it as a betting slate. I will say that. I think there's going to be a lot of really nice pieces of value. There already are at the top of OddsShopper where you can pluck it off the positive EV tool. But how are you feeling about this slate?
Yeah, so it's interesting because we have a ton of news for this slate, but it's kind of already come out.
Yep.
Oh, and then nothing changed just as we were starting, so that's kind of nice. But then you go ahead and you look at what we've got going on in the injury report tonight, and yeah, Jaylen Brown is questionable, but it's not like there's too many players that we're waiting on that are massive names like we've had on other days. What's going on here that we're laughing at?
You just went to the Matrix quick and then you came back. It was like it was kind of watch. I don't know. You could go back and watch it, but actually, I don't think I've gone back. I used to when I first started this shop. Almost 4 years ago now. I used to go back and watch, and I was like, how can I learn? How can I get better? Now it's like, I don't think I have rewatched a show I've done in 2.5 years. Not a single one, not a single moment have I gone back and been like, gee, I would like to relive that moment. Maybe it's the Stockholm syndrome in me.
I like the idea of you going back and be like, how could I improve on the exotic play? What did I miss on today? What angles did I not hit? We were talking about our favorite white guy on this slate.
So what I'm getting at is that you have now you've broken me. That's what it is.
Study the game tape. Study the game tape. The other thing too, though, is so when I was doing comedy, I never wrote anything, but I listened all the time. So I recorded all my sets, and then when I would take the train ride home, I'd always listen back, and you try to figure what got bigger pops from the audience, what didn't they respond to, and you kind of build around that. There isn't really an equivalent of that to this. We've got our bits that we build, and we got new things that we add and whatnot, but I mean, there's no thing for me at least that I could go back and be like, oh, if only I would have talked about Wembanyama, I would have had a higher ROI or something like that. So there's not really an equivalent. I mean, the other thing too is we put out so much content now that I don't even know, what are you going to do? You're going to rewatch your Lindy's, Leans, Likes, and Locks. I'm going to watch 3 hours of myself on playback. They're not enough time in that.
But again, at the beginning of this, I think it's one of those important things. If you want to get into content, if you want to get into DFS content specifically or sports betting content, I mean, just figuring out exactly how you relate to the audience and then just trying to give people informative stuff. I think that's one of the gold things about everybody that we have here is everybody's trying really, really hard to help you get better at DFS and sports betting. And, nobody really has an ego. We pretty much are, I mean, a little bit of Greg, but it is what it is. We love you anyway.
There we go. We got a super chat that's already come in. If you guys have questions for us in the Discord, if you're a Stochastic sub, at me so we can answer those questions. But let's see what we have here for our first super chat. It is coming to us from Shane Daly. And Shane, already shout out to Chris Williams. I know you shouted him at the top of the show, but we can never shout out Chris enough here. Gifted out the 5 YouTube memberships. As always, Chris, we really do appreciate your support. But Shane Daly wants to know, is 4,800 too much for Dick play tonight? I hear that's above average, just saying. Eric, Shane Daly has left us a very pressing question about Dick. Are you playing Grady Dick tonight?
No, I am not.
Let me go. I'm pretty sure that answer is a no for me as well. We have an abundance of value on the slate. And unfortunately, Dick just doesn't quite stack up. Not enough happening there for him. He's got to get a little bit more for him to make my requirements on this kind of
he's
slate.
a eunuch.
So, yeah, no Dick for us, Shane Daly. None at all. Let's see what else we have as far as questions. So a bunch of them came into the Discord channel. The first one is from Hey, I'm Drew 95. He says he had a lot of Gobert in his lineups earlier, and now he's getting to a lot of Mikal Bridges. Can you explain why that is happening? Also, DK cash plays. All right. So he had a lot of Gobert earlier, and now it's a lot of Bridges. I don't know that they're correlated in any kind of way. I also wasn't building out lineups earlier, but I mean, things just change over the course of the day. And there's numerous reasons things could end up changing. And it might not even relate to those players. You could get a scenario like last night, for instance, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we got all of a sudden Goga became a great value play, right? So you wouldn't really think the kind of impact Goga could have on some other players of other positions. But what ends up happening is, let's say that on that slate, you were getting to a bunch of pay up centers, and now all of a sudden a value center becomes available and he's in a bunch of lineups. Then all of a sudden you have to pay up at another spot. So for this particular scenario, Hey, I'm Drew 95. I don't really know exactly what changed over the course of the day because I wasn't like running lineups constantly throughout it. But there's a number of things that could end up impacting the amount of exposure you get to individual players, even if nothing's changed with those players themselves.
Yeah, the only thing that would make sense to me is that maybe earlier in the day, I'm not sure what we had Zach Collins ownership at, but like he was always going to be crazy, crazy high. He's the best play on the slate, best value play on the slate today. I don't think it's remotely close. I think today is one of those things where maybe the center position is just kind of getting absorbed by him. And so as a result, maybe Gobert gets trimmed down a little bit, although we have him at 29%. I don't know if there's anything that, you know, maybe you were clicking some other buttons, maybe some other stuff happened where all of a sudden Bridges in the positionality worked out for you. He is 7,100. So, you know, obviously it's not like an overpay there for him, but 7,500 Gobert is still one of the better plays on the slate as well. Shouldn't have happened. I would go back and just double check because I just reran a new set of lineups before the show. I've got plenty of Gobert. I'm not as heavy there on Bridges, although I've talked about Brooklyn, Detroit. I think this is one of those games where because everybody already has the late exposure, I'm not terribly upset to get overweight to some early pieces.
Yeah, I've got exposure to Gobert. I've got exposure to Mikal Bridges as well. These are two players who I have a 20+% of in my lineup. So yeah, I think both of them look pretty good. And then the follow-up to this, he wants to know who are our favorite options for cash games on DraftKings. So let's go ahead and look at, if we're talking cash games specific, I mean, you're playing a ton of the Spurs tonight.
Yeah, this is probably the easiest. This is probably the easiest cash day in a really, really long time. I think the only question mark you would probably have, period, is what to do with Lonnie Walker, because he's the third highest owned player on the slate. And I still don't trust the minutes to just absolutely be there in a prominent way. They played 2 games ago, you know, 30 minutes kind of came out of the middle of nowhere there. And I know Ben Simmons now going to be out for the foreseeable future. I know Cameron Thomas being out and Cameron Johnson being out. And there's a lot of pieces there, but like they can go to more Dennis Smith Jr., who I think is a really good tournament option at 4,300. They can go to Jalen Wilson, who I've been banging the drum for. I don't know why he doesn't play more minutes for them, because every time I watch him play, I'm like, this guy seems like he kind of knows what he's doing. And he's not a high usage guy by any means, but he's like a good basketball player. So I think that that's probably the only cash question. Otherwise, it is so straightforward. I mean, you were playing Zach Collins, you were playing Kyle Anderson, you were playing Keldon Johnson, you were playing Jeremy Sohan, you're playing more than likely Rudy Gobert as your second center, and you're probably playing De'Aaron Fox for like the mini correlation with everything there. Not that you need to worry about that, but like those are just outrageously good plays today for cash.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many just really good points per dollar options. And also, don't be concerned if people are like, oh my God, I'm getting a bunch of Spurs in a cash. Cool, that's what you should have. But if I was to narrow it down to the players I think you should be playing in cash games, for sure, like the locks, I'm going to say Zach Collins, Kyle Anderson, Lonnie Walker, due to his ownership, I would still consider him a cash game lock for tonight. Devin Vassell is another one for me. I would say those 4, just the absolute locks for cash games.
Okay. I will go back to it. I'll say it again. And Lonnie Walker won me a lot of money this year. He's been a guy that I generally like to play. With the ownership this high on him, I at least wanted to express my trepidation where he's like the one guy, even though he's the third highest player on the slate, I would call him on the outside looking in. Just if there were other things that I could make work in my lineup, he'd be the one guy I'd be okay trimming. Although every time I keep looking at his rates, 25% usage, and just, I mean, this could just be ridiculous. If he plays 28 minutes, you're going to absolutely need him. So yeah, I kind of am going back and forth with it.
Yeah. I mean, he's probably going to be like 70, 80% owned in cash games.
Yeah.
So
You should probably just do it in cash. He just went up
play him
another
there.
run.
Hey,
He just went up to 45%. So play him.
Yeah. Go ahead and play him. Unless something like crazy changes where we get different news where he's going to be like limited or something like that. Go ahead and play yourself Lonnie Walker in cash games today. Next question that we have in here, it is from Parker Boy. Parker Boy said, Steve Kerr said that TJD, so Trace Jackson Davis, will get more playing time to get ready for the playoffs. Do you think he's a good pivot off of Collins? He is $3,100 on DraftKings. So I think people are reading a little bit. By the way, Steve Kerr said this multiple times about Trace Jackson Davis this year. And yes, I do think he's going to play more than he already was. But keep in mind, there was a point in time not all that long ago where Trace Jackson Davis was out of the Warriors rotation. So for tournament purposes, could you get exposure to Trace Jackson Davis? Sure. But I've seen people ask me like, hey, how come Trace Jackson Davis isn't projected for 30 minutes? Steve Kerr said he's going to play more. Him playing more, it's a fairly low bar for him to play more. For tournaments, yeah, he's certainly somebody you could roster. But as far as getting off of Zach Collins and playing Trace Jackson Davis, that is not something I'm willing to do.
It was very easy to put Trace Jackson Davis out there yesterday when you're up 20 on Milwaukee. Like, that's the other part of it, is that you get some uncompetitive game scripts, and obviously they're 8-point favorites against Chicago today. That's very, very live to happen. But you got Clay coming off the bench. You have Chris Paul back. You have Kuminga and Draymond and Podziemski and Curry and Wiggins starting. You've got Moody, who's going to still be in this rotation. Gary Payton, we've seen him, continue to be in this rotation. For all intents and purposes, it's just a 10-man grouping. And yeah, he's 3,400 with a good fantasy point per minute rate, but like Zach Collins is exponentially better, exponentially more minutes, and not all that much more expensive. And then you're going to get 40, 50 from a number of different centers minimum here on this slate and guys to rotate through. So for me, it's more of a late slate play if you really, really want to get exposure and try to be right about that. But even still, it is a tough ask. They pretty much have to be in some of these blowouts to get to that 18, 20 minutes that you're referring to the last two games.
Super chat from Ace of Spade. Then we'll get back to the questions that are starting to pile up in the Discord channel. If you guys haven't done it, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And also, after the show ends, don't forget to check us out at Playback, another free show that's going to be going on over there. Ace of Spade, of course, wants to know who the best options are for DK tiers. So let's head on over and look at tiers for tonight, Eric. Starting with tier 1, where we've got Luka, we've got Jokic, we got Sabonis. It warms my heart that Wemby's in tier 1. He's out today, so we can't choose him, obviously. Yeah. But Victor Wembanyama, first time all year that he's a tier 1 player, and that is where he belongs and probably where he will be for the next, 15 years or something like that. Yeah. But tier 1, actually, the only reason he might not be in tier 1 is because he's going to be too good of a fantasy producer, and they just won't be able to put him in there. Tier 1, though, that is Luka for me.
Very much Luka.
Look at tier 2. Tier 2, that is going to be KD, Kevin Durant. Tier 3, a little bit tighter, but not really. I'm going to have to go with Anthony Edwards here with Karl Anthony Towns, unfortunately, out.
Yeah, Mr. Fox, I can't even talk about the Towns thing or I'll cry.
Oh, so you're not even going with Edwards in tier 3?
I said Edwards. No, I said Fox would be second, but I'm saying it's definitely
my bad.
I'm saying that they're not that crazy different, but like Ant got 2.5 fantasy points more on my end. So yeah, I'm gonna definitely go Ant.
Tier 4, that is gonna be my arch nemesis, Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, you gotta do it.
A lot of agreement between us right now.
I know, this is kind of weird.
Once again, so I think there are a couple players we could consider here due to injuries.
Gobert.
Gobert benefiting from the absence of Karl Anthony Towns, and obviously Devin Vassell benefiting from the absence of Victor Wembanyama. I'm going to go with Gobert, but for you, is it Gobert? Is it Vassell? Is it somebody else?
Definitely Gobert.
All right. So now let's go to tier 6. Maybe in tier 6, we could get a little bit of a dissension in opinions.
I don't think we are, Nurkic. You're going Mikal Bridges. Okay. Our last, it's Nurkic for me.
Okay. All right. So there we have a little bit of a disagreement. It would be Nurkic second for me, but Mikal Bridges leading the way. Those are the only two I would really strongly consider, though, either Bridges or Nurkic in tier 6. I go Bridges, Eric goes Nurkic. Ace of Spade, thank you very much for the super chat that you left us there. And as always, Ace of Spade is really carrying the DK tiers conversation. You know what's funny? I do wonder, Ace of Spade, I have a feeling on this. I think he's been a massive market mover in DK tiers. Because how many people that watch our show, and this is the most watched show in the DFS space. Not bragging, it's just a fact. This is what the information is. How many people play DK tiers because Ace of Spade leaves us that question to hear us talking about it? Ace of Spade's probably somewhat responsible for popularizing tiers a little bit.
I've purposely never told this story on Live Before Lock because I know you'll make fun of me, but there was one day that I played 50 lineups. And there was a late scratch and I took a 0 and I cashed 0 of 50 and I've just never talked about it. The $5, whatever it was. I built out tiers lineup specifically because it was like something he just started asking us. It was a couple months ago where I was like, oh, maybe I should play some tiers one time. And I just completely forgot that I made the lineups. Completely forgot.
By the way, we've got some responses in chat from this. We've got William Westry said I started because of him, and then Tony Montana in chat said I did too. So it looks like a handful of people that are playing because
I started and I stopped because of Ace of Spades. So there you go.
And there was so for me, now that we have the Sims and I have a lot going on before lock, I'm not playing tiers like I did in the past. There was a point where I went on a big tiers kick where like I was playing it a lot every night and it was really profitable. It's just hard for me to find the time to build out the lineups in the same way I used to with me just playing 150 lineups more regularly and running everything through the Sims and whatnot. But Ace of Spade, thank you very much for supporting the channel and leaving the question. And yeah, we've got like a dozen people in chat that just said they started playing because of
it's a fun game type, especially like if you are busy. Like if you're busy, if you're gonna be bouncing around, it's so much easier to just global swap off of a guy who gets ruled out in tiers than what it is with salary implications. So like for me, you know, DraftKings is trying like non-late slate or swaps and whatever else. Like have some tiers prize pools, like a 25K to first tiers pool, like once a week, or throw that in. I said, I kind of like the experiment of different gameplay types, trying different parts of your brain. Like, you know, Sudokus, they change, and like DFS slates change too, but like, I kind of like the entirely different game types from time to time.
Yeah. Hey, I agree with you. I actually think the most fun tiers is the NFL one because there's correlation.
Oh,
there.
definitely.
You can actually build lineups a little bit more game theory.
MLB is the best. You can actually stack, and people weren't doing that at the get-go. They were just playing top projected, and it would be like, oh, I'll just take the low-owned stack of the entire tiers, and you would just sweep on the days they went off. It was amazing at the inception of tiers for MLB.
Do you remember the game mode that existed before tiers?
They did the slot or the pinball.
Arcade.
Yeah, arcade. The pinball thing.
I fucking loved arcade. Arcade was the shit. I was so much fun. I remember the most fun arcade slate ever. There was a slate where I was convinced because he hadn't pitched for a while. Chad Green on the Yankees, who was a really good reliever at one point.
Yep.
I was positive that he was going to pitch multiple innings because he was a stretched out reliever and the Yankees had the bullpen exhausted. And if you remember the old scoring in arcade mode for relievers, was like everything was multiplied, but like everything was multiplied. The strikeouts, the innings, the runs, the hits, all of it. So I went all in on Chad Green. I had all the nuts and the Yankees were the last game on that entire slate. Chad Green comes in the 6th inning. He's about to throw like 3 innings. Infield single, walk, grand slam. He scores like -49 fantasy points. It was one of the funniest DFS experience I've ever had. That was so I think I was the only one who liked arcade mode, but it was so much fun.
I started putting together baseball stuff over the weekend. I was talking about that a little bit on a show the other day. Started piecing some of it together. Is Chad Green going to start off in the pen again this year? Because they lengthened him out at the tail end of last year and he was fucking good.
No clue.
I have no clue either. I haven't gotten to the Yankees yet. I just go alphabetically.
Yeah, not sure, but man, tiers. I mean, arcade before, and I enjoy tiers as well as just like a more casual product that doesn't have as much intricacy to it. But man, that was I loved Arcade. That was super fun. Let's get back to some of your guys' questions. A couple more super chats came in, questions in Discord. We've also got coming up the nuke of the night. But let's answer these 2 super chats. Then we'll do nuke of the night, and then we'll 3 super chats. The third one just came in. So these 3 super chats, nuke of the night. Then we'll get to the rest of the Discord questions that are sitting there waiting for us. Next question, D-Buff, Daniel Buffington wants to know, for DraftKings, he has a 3v3 for us. On one side, it is Bradley Beal, De'Aaron Fox, and Rudy Gobert. On the other side, it's Luka Doncic, Devin Vassell, and Trace Jackson Davis. Option
one definitely by a lot. By a lot.
What did I do here with? Yeah, that's going to be option 1 for me. You could take shots on Trace Jackson Davis in large field tournaments, but he's not going to be the winning answer in a lot of like 1v1, 2v2, 3v3s. Like before we got the question, Trace Jackson Davis or Zach Collins. And there's just too big of a projection gap for a lot of these sorts of comparisons. I like Luka. I like Devin Vassell tonight. Of those 3 players, Vassell, Luka, Trace Jackson Davis, Vassell is definitely the priority for me. But there's a bunch of guys I like on the others, like De'Aaron Fox, one of the best pay-up options on the slate. Rudy Gobert benefiting from the absence of Karl-Anthony Towns. I could take it or leave it with Bradley Beal, but I do prefer him as being like the weak link of that 3v3 more than Trace Jackson Davis on the other side. So Eric and I are in agreement. Beal, Fox, Gobert. That's the side to go with there. Daniel Buffington. Kobe White fan club. Oh, we got like a new person in a fan club every single day now. I like it. Very clever. I like this one. So Kobe White fan club says, where do you recommend putting the contest archetype? Totally depends on which contest you're playing in.
Yep.
Because the answer is going to be different depending on your contest selection. And that's also part of the idea of the Sims tool, is that it's going to simulate the slate, but it's also going to optimize the results for the contest that you're playing. And if you guys want to try it out, by the way, we've got a link for it below and a new promo going on. It's going to be ending tomorrow, but if you sign up with the promo code Wemby, which is already preloaded into that link below, WEMBY, all capital letters, Wemby, you're going to get 50% off when you sign up for the Sims Max weekly package. But as far as the contest archetype, Kobe White fan club, if you're playing in the $15 on DraftKings today, that's the marquee setting. Right, that's the big contest each night, the $15. That's what the marquee is set to be. But if you're playing in like the $1.20 max contest, that's the low stakes contest archetype setting. If you are in, say, the $200 single entry, that's going to be your high stakes setting. So it depends which contest you're in. Think about the buy-in level and then where that is in the range of the different buy-ins that are available on DraftKings or FanDuel, whichever site it is that you're playing on. And that's where you want to set the contest archetype to. You don't have to leave another super chat, Kobe White, but if you are, if you have any follow-up questions, just throw it into the YouTube chat. I'll be on the lookout for it. And if you specifically say which contest is you're playing in, then I could give you the exact answer that I would give for the contest you're playing in. But marquee, I'm going to assume if you're playing in that $15, 150 max on DraftKings, that's what I think most of you guys are playing. That's the answer. The official Chris Presto channel has left us a super chat here. Hey guys, would you rather play Brandon Pajemski, Malik Monk, or both? Thank you guys. Stochastic is the best. Official Chris Presto channel, thank you for the super chat. And once again, Eric, his question is Pajemski, Monk, or both? Or I guess neither could be an option as well.
Yeah, no, Malik Monk is always the answer. I mean, yesterday, I think he was in my lineup that finished 40th. I can't remember the $4 yesterday. I had a lineup that was like top 5 for a while that had like Simons, Chet, Jalen Williams, had a lot of that evening exposure. And then De'Aaron Fox and LeBron James said, no, you're not going to win today. I think Malik Monk ends up just being an absolute... I mean, this is like a game environment that's just like so tailor-made, perfect for him, just like the Lakers yesterday. A lot of what's happening is Kevin Huerter ends up getting sent to the Shadow Realm because Malik Monk comes out and plays really, really well. There's going to be games where Malik Monk does not get red hot immediately, but like the assist rate's been up, the turnovers have been down. He's played really, really good ball for Sacramento lately, and he's closing over either like Huerter or Barnes. It's kind of like a combination of the two. They can kind of do whatever they want. Yesterday wasn't even competitive, so you didn't need that closing situation, but he's a 1.13 fantasy point per minute guy, which is exponentially better than what you're looking at for Pajemski. And we talked about the Golden State rotation. It's so hard to click on anybody because the minutes are so diluted now. You have everybody back, And other than Trace Jackson Davis, everybody's pretty damn expensive relative to the minutes we're projecting for them. So like Steph Curry, you can play on any day that ends in Y. It's Steph Curry. You could go for a 60 piece and whatever, but like I find Golden State to be pretty unplayable today.
Yeah, let me look at my exposures to Golden State. By the way, answer for myself as well. Malik Monk. Monk has been awesome this year. No, it looks like starting to run away with 6th man of the year.
Let's
award,
go.
Pretty excited about. I am going to have. I'm going to victory lap something for a second here. I have money from the start of the season on every single favorite to win the NBA awards this year. Steph Curry, how good is that? For Clutch Player of the Year. I've got Malik Monk for 6th man of the year. I've got Tyrese Maxey for Most Improved. I got Rudy Gobert for Defensive Player of the Year. And I've got Jokic for MVP. I'll take like an L, though, on Rookie of the Year because I bet both Wemby and Chet. I kind of hedged it when both of them were plus money at different points. So,
honestly, though, that was a good decision because, I mean, there was that period until the last month and a half. People don't remember. Chet was on the team with the best record in the NBA, and he started to smash. And hey, how about yesterday? I don't know if there's going to be a better Nuke of the Night run than what I am on right now, but we're going to ride in the sunset. Another near 50 piece from Chet, the exotic and Nuke of the Night combination there because Lucas Samanic, we're not going to talk about him.
Yeah, more
Dennis Smith Jr. starting.
To join our Discord channel and check out Odd Shopper as well, where Eric and I place bets. And I got a little bit on the Ben kick. I had a weird bet that I gave out today on PFL Europe. I was watching that this afternoon a little bit.
Fudge? What?
Yeah, I thought I had a good edge on PFL Europe. Ended up winning a bet in a very weird way. A guy ended up what is that?
Dennis Smith Jr. starting. We got to talk about it.
All right, so we've got Dennis
Lonnie
Smith
Walker not
Jr.
starting.
So the starting lineup for the Nets: Dennis Schroeder, Dennis Smith Jr. You're allowed to do that in the NBA. You're allowed to start 2 Dennises in one lineup. Just learn that.
So.
Mikal Bridges, Dorian Finney-Smith, and then Nick Claxton. So Eric, what do we make of Dennis Smith Jr. starting at shooting guard for the Nets?
You play him. He's 4,300. He's a good fantasy performer, 0.97 fantasy point per minute guy. He's going to be under-owned relative to other guys. And now I get to do exactly what I wanted to do in the first place. And I'm not going to hit complete eject on Lonnie Walker, but let me just tell you, the Lonnie Walker's cheat code is you play him when he's not popular and nobody thinks he's in the rotation, and then you don't play him when he's popular because he ends up out of the rotation randomly. Now, it's a different coaching staff, different set of circumstances, but there's no reason that it couldn't just be a hot hand approach between him and Lonnie Walker on who closes. I think that's probably what it ends up being, but Dennis Smith Jr. gets the first crack at it. He's $300 cheaper, and he's going to be potentially lower owned. We'll see what happens in the next 20 minutes or so. What happens to Lonnie Walker and Dennis Smith Jr. But I think the industry consensus was that Lonnie Walker was going to get the starting nod. We had him at 28 minutes, DSJ at 23. You pretty much just flip-flop that. DSJ you're going to get to now.
It obviously helps Dennis Smith Jr. To me, it could only hurt Lonnie Walker for a couple of reasons. Number one, Dennis Smith Jr. playing shooting guard minutes. Well, that's where Lonnie Walker was going to play some of his minutes. And Dennis Smith Jr. could still end up playing some point guard minutes also as the backup there. But yeah, Dennis Smith Jr. is somebody who's a very high priority now. And I echo all your sentiments. Lonnie Walker doesn't make him unplayable, but I assume I'm going to end up being underweight to the field on Lonnie Walker when I end up rerunning everything. And Dennis Smith Jr. is going to become a core play for me. So for sure, it is something that we want to be taking advantage of. And we got Phil Still in the YouTube chat.
As if you needed to have another cheapie.
Yes.
Another
so the way
cheapie
that
for
it
cash.
is, the way that the Sims update is when Rich runs the next projection update on the site, which is going to come in the next couple of minutes for the Nets starting lineup, then those changes get reflected in the contest generator and the Sims tool. So the answer is yes, it'll be updated in a couple of minutes. It doesn't happen immediately because we have to update the projections first, but it happens very quick. There's very fast turnaround on it. Before I was going to answer more super chats and questions in Discord, but let's do the nuke of the night, Eric. We'll give this the data on the site a chance to update for Rich to run the projections. We can check on that. So while we're waiting for all that to happen, nuke of the night. Hit the animation, Jordan. Let's go. Eric, you were on the self-proclaimed best run in the history of nuke of the night. In your efforts to keep it going, who's tonight's nuke of the night?
I think it's about as clear cut as it gets on planet Earth. The game of the night tonight maybe not from a fantasy perspective all around, but the game of the night tonight is Denver versus Boston. We're all going to want to watch it. It's going to be outrageous. And as I was working through stuff, I was like, oh man, I wonder where Jamal Murray's tag ends up being tonight, because I just kind of expected him to be elevated after 42 minutes in a competitive spot against Phoenix. He played 38 and 37 in regulation here, the last two, 42 obviously in the overtime period. Assist rate's been taking a nice bump up, and we've just seen him kind of come into his own a little bit more offensively here lately. Sometimes Michael Porter Jr. comes to the forefront, but Jamal Murray is 7,700 against Boston, and people look at Drew Holiday and Derek White and they say, oh, you can't play them against good defenders. No, my friends. This game is going to be competitive, which is something that Boston and Denver don't really run into all that frequently. I think this is going to be a fun spot to really late swap around lineups based on how you're doing. You got the Bulls, Golden State. I don't think that game's very appealing, but everybody has San Antonio, Sacramento. I'm trying to find my way into more of this game, more of the Detroit and Brooklyn game. I think Brooklyn's going to be a lot more popular here now with a $4,300 option at point guard, but that's yet another guy that is going to be taking away ownership from one Jamal Murray. And these are the kind of spots where you want to be on Jamal Murray in primetime event, primetime viewing, 1 point spread. Jamal Murray 50 burger guaranteed, barring injury, of course. Jamal Murray, your nuke of the night.
Going with Anthony Edwards here. He's not projected for low ownership, but it's lower than what I think it should be. He's barely over 20% projected ownership. Karl-Anthony Towns is out for the Minnesota Timberwolves. We don't know exactly when he's going to be back. I did try to help Eric feel a little bit better, because Woj did put out a tweet this morning that I don't know if it was something that came out differently than what he meant it to be, but he said that Karl-Anthony Towns might not have to miss any time due to his meniscus injury, which was, to me, probably poorly worded, but I have Wolves futures. I'll try to be optimistic about it. But the field is not getting Anthony Edwards in the way you would expect with Karl-Anthony Towns out. Edwards leads the team in usage with Karl-Anthony Towns off the court. No surprise there. He leads the team in fantasy production with Karl-Anthony Towns off the court. 1.34 DraftKings points per minute, 1.3 FanDuel points per minute. And the field is just kind of like, hey, Anthony Edwards, fine, but not a guy, it seems like, for a lot of the field, and he's barely over 20% owned. So Anthony Edwards, I'm overweight to him. He's going to be my nuke of the night, Eric. Anthony Edwards. I feel like you should be on board with that. He's your guy.
Oh yeah. The thing is, I mean, I always try to go for like the low hanging fruit, like the low owned pieces. You're a chalk donkey. So there you go. I have like 44% in my last run. I don't know what I'm going to land at here. Just pulled up my old spreadsheet. 44% in my last run. He's 22%. So I was exactly double the field without any caps or anything. I feel really good about Ant tonight. I am on more on his fantasy score on Prize Picks, which I am on the historic Prize Picks run. There is like no doubt of that. If you follow me,
run in Prize Picks history,
it might be close. I mean, 33-7-1, hitting like 82.5% of your plays and cashing 16 of 21 tickets. I mean, come on, these are not sustainable things, but like, I don't hate it. So Anthony Edwards is the more play in fantasy score. Miles Turner, I'm not going to play him in DFS, but he was at 30. I ended up just having like mini correlation there. But yeah, Ant, I am so behind. The best positionality you can have, DK, let's ride.
So one other thing that, where'd it go? There was a question I was going to bring up there, but whatever, it went away. So I'm not exactly sure where it went. Can't find it anymore, but oh, right. I wanted to look for Kobe White. Kobe White, follow-up, because you didn't leave in a follow-up question about your what setting to put on. So if you wanted to ask that, just throw it into the YouTube chat, because didn't see that follow-up from you. Let's go into the Discord and see some of the questions that we're getting in our Discord channel from our subs. And the next one that we have here is from Sean Jeezy. Our guy Sean wants to know, is TJ McConnell going overlooked tonight? Ownership feels low to me. Let's see. Where is McConnell? So one other thing about it. Yeah, McConnell fairly low owned. His price is at 4,700. So Sean, I don't think he is. I know he's had some big games as of late, and there is a ceiling for TJ McConnell, but the minutes aren't really there. A couple games ago, he played 27 minutes, but the games around that, 18 minutes last game, the 27-minute game, 17 minutes, 19 minutes. He's usually playing somewhere around 17 to 18 minutes. at a $4,700 price tag, that's not really a button that I want to click. Another thing to add to the equation as well, now I've got the Dennis Smith Jr. consideration at the point guard spot. He's priced right around TJ McConnell. That gives us another guy we want to be playing at point guard. So TJ McConnell, not for me tonight. So hopefully this isn't a night where Halliburton gets into foul trouble or something and McConnell goes crazy and I look like a doofus.
2 games ago, you had Nesmith and Benedict Mathurin out. Benedict Mathurin is out for tonight. Aaron Nesmith in. And then Ben Shepherd's been playing more and more and more and more, which is a little bit annoying because TJ McConnell had been a really good tournament target for me. I did have a little bit. I think I still have a little bit here. We'll see as I finish up my stuff here with Dennis Smith Jr. updating for that. But I see where you're getting at. TJ McConnell leads this team in usage since the All-Star break. How dumb is that?
I definitely wouldn't have expected it. Although I'm looking at his game log now, it's like 27% usage, 25, 24%. Part of it too is because of the low minutes he plays, but not enough minutes for me to really want to get there. And by the way, we did get the, now I realize what happened. Kobe White fan club had typed in the contest he was playing in, but then other questions came up. So it got deleted from the history because there's only so many questions that stay in there. But Kobe White fan club had said that he's playing in the $15. Yeah, use the marquee setting for that. He's playing 20 lines to the $15 today. That's the one you want to click.
Love.
Fistula Poop wants to know who are must plays for 3 entry max tonight.
So Zach Collins and DSJ, I think you just kind of click on and figure out other things. Kyle Anderson as well. I think those 3 are just going to be in my single entry lineup. I don't really care. Point guard, because people I think are going to be able to access more Luka. I like getting to the Jokic and the Jamal Murray side of things. So I think they're both very strong considerations for 3 max. Is there anybody contrarian that you like that's sub 20%? I think we both like Ant as well. That's a pretty easy plug and play.
Nurkic, Conley, they're both sub 20%, and I've got a good amount of them.
Nurk is great. Yep, love Nurk.
I mean, I think a lot of these Timberwolves players, just not the ownership they should be getting in the absence of Karl-Anthony Towns. I talked about Edwards as my nuke of the night, but same thing goes for other guys as well. Rudy Gobert is picking up some ownership, but also not as much as what I think it should be. So yeah, there's a lot of guys here on the Timberwolves. Pretty much all of the core guys that aren't like like Kyle Anderson. Everybody's playing Kyle Anderson, so not him, but like the Rudy Gobert, Mike Conley, Anthony Edwards, the guys who are normally good fantasy producers for the team. I think those guys are a little bit lower on than they should be.
In everybody's defense, though, this is an indie team that you can go small against. I mean, Pascal Siakam might play some 5. Isaiah Jackson's been out of the rotation. Miles Turner been playing fewer minutes. And they have Monty Morris and Jordan McLaughlin gets back tonight after a week out. So, like, they have small ball considerations, lineups that they can go to if they want to. Rudy Gobert will still play his 35-ish, 36-ish minutes. So, for me, it's like Kyle Anderson, Ant, Gobert, and then Mike Conley showing up a little bit for me. It just gets to be really, really thin. So, it's like, there are 3 very featured items from Minnesota, but there's not like a lot of quote unquote value outside of Kyle Anderson.
Some updates to our projections. Dennis Smith Jr. now at $4,300. We have projected for 26 fantasy points, giving him 28 minutes. And then Lonnie Walker off the bench. He is at $4,600, projected for 24 fantasy points in 24 minutes. It's not exactly a flip, but pretty close to their projections in minutes flipped. In the way that we're approaching it, if we go and look at it from a FanDuel side of things, Dennis Smith Jr. 5,300 is projected for 26.32 fantasy points. Playable, but not nearly as strong as he looks over on DraftKings. The $5,300 price tag is quite a bit different looking on FanDuel. And then Lonnie Walker, we have in for 23.36 fantasy points at $4,800. So kind of interesting that Lonnie Walker is quite a bit cheaper than Dennis Smith Jr. over on FanDuel. So I do think the dynamic on FanDuel is different than on DraftKings. I'm more inclined to play Lonnie Walker still on FanDuel. Still think he's somebody good to get to, whereas DraftKings very strongly, I'm going to be preferring Dennis Smith Jr.
One thing, Ryan Wagner threw in there, San Antonio, any Dominic Barlow. He is going to be my late slate guy. I mean, everybody's talking about frickin' 3,400 Trace Jackson Davis. I feel like Barlow has a much more secure role. He has the, 0.95 fantasy point per minute rate, 18 and a half, 19 minutes. I think it's too thin for the main slate, but I am definitely going to be playing him on the late slate.
See what we have for our next question here. This is coming to us from my filler arc. He wants to know Devin Vassell or Jusuf Nurkic. Very interesting way to spell Jusuf, Josef. So Joseph,
Joseph.
however, I don't know how you spelled it there. Joseph. But as per usual, my filler art doesn't come close to spelling the names correct. If it's just a 1v1 comparison, it's going to be the sell for me.
There you go.
We've got Sharon has asked us, running the lineup generator tonight, balanced, chalky, or, well, I know you meant to include contrarian, but he said balanced, chalky, or balanced. I know you didn't mean to put it in there twice, but the answer is balanced. So maybe you already had the right answer on your mind. 57 Ski, best guard for $5,800 or less.
Dennis Smith Jr.
5,800.
Dennis Smith Jr.
I'm going to go with Mike Conley.
Okay, that's fine.
It's would you leave the
Oh no, I mean, if he's just I would not do that. Yeah, I would never leave that much in NBA. But you're just asking me my favorite play. That's the guy I have the most exposure to. And I will say I don't think I have Conley and DSJ that far off of one another. Let me take a look. Oh yeah, I do. Okay, it's definitely Conley. Good talk. Glad we had it.
Jacob Dunn. Oh, all right. Better waiver for a 10-team fantasy points league. Naz Reid or Kyle Anderson. So one thing that does make this a little tricky is I don't know the scoring settings of your league, but if I'm just going to assume that it is DraftKings scoring and that there's no other.
Oh God. TJ Warren available to make Wolves debut. So minutes get even thinner for Naz Reid more than likely.
Well, I don't think Warren I don't think that he's going to be like a massive part of the rotation.
He'll play 6 minutes, but again, I'm already projecting Monty Morrison, Naz Reid in, Nickeil Alexander-Walker in, Jordan McLaughlin in. Like, there's guys. I mean, Josh Minott could even get some minutes. So, like, there are ways that I don't enjoy how this pans out. I was going to have like 12, 15% Naz Reid. He's 5%, but that is not going to probably be something I go crazy with anymore. It's still indie.
Yeah, without knowing the scoring settings of your league, Jacob, I'm going to say Kyle Anderson. But once again, kind of hard to know without more of that information. But Kyle Anderson, that's going to be my answer. I expect him to start and Naz Reid to be coming off the bench. Shane Daly wants to know Carlin versus Pryor. I like both of them a lot, so I'm not gonna pick a legend against a legend. There's no need to do that. No need, because some of these discussions, it's, hey, let's put one guy down to big up another person. Two legends, like both of them. And George Carlin was Thomas the Tank Engine, which was a massive part of my childhood as well, which also should play some part of the discussion. But I have two legends that I like quite a bit. And then Jeremy Sokan against Keldon Johnson tonight. I prefer Keldon Johnson.
Yeah, by not a crazy amount, but yeah, I'm with you.
Gray, favorite FanDuel center for large field and single entry.
Zach Collins.
Center. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and assume that he already has Zach Collins in at power forward.
Nurk or Gobert? Joker also I love.
Exposures.
My three highest not named Zach Collins: Rudy Gobert, Yusuf Nurkic, Nikola Jokic.
Honestly, Zach Collins is $6,100 on FanDuel. I don't know if you'd be my answer on FanDuel.
Oh, that is a different equation. You can tell today Eric didn't look at FanDuel. By the
way, he's still a very strong option on FanDuel, but he's not the center I have the most exposure to. The center of the most exposure to on FanDuel is Bam.
Just running back Kelly Olynyk on FanDuel today. Oh, I should have played FanDuel today. Oh, I love my guy Kelly O. Let's see. It'd be the exotic play of the night for FanDuel. Let's go Vooch. Let's get different. 8K Vooch. That's a wild little tag. I like that.
Phantom 1 wants to know, still like Fontecchio and what chalk to avoid in GPP. Chalk to avoid now. I'm not saying you have to like play 0%, but at least be underweight to Lonnie Walker now that he's coming off the bench. Fontecchio, is he somebody? I don't know that I ever said I liked Fontecchio today. Was that a reference to maybe something you wrote earlier, Eric?
I said nothing. I wrote nothing. It would be a Josh maybe thing. I have no clue. I have 0%, so that's not me.
Yeah. So don't like Fontecchio, piece of chalk to be underweight to. I am going to be answering Lonnie Walker there as my guy. Let's see what we have next as far as questions. Our next one is from Hem Downstairs. Wants to know favorite single entry play on DK for the $5. Anthony Edwards.
Anthony Edwards love.
Clyde, in the spirit of Tiger versus the field, Fox versus this group, Halliburton, Kyrie, Steph, IQ, and Kobe White, the field.
The field.
The odds of Fox outscoring all of those guys, not super high. I assume that's what you meant
Not
by
great, Bob.
Comparing Tiger to the field, Fox versus all those people. It's the field.
Yep.
Mr. Cool Cam, favorite tournament plays at each position on FanDuel? Yes, sir. Starting at point guard for me, that is going to be Dennis Schroeder. Do you have lineups built out?
I just ran them. I just ran them because I was trying to give an informed answer at center. Point guard is Dennis Smith Jr.
Ooh, okay. Dennis Schroeder for me. Shooting guard, that is going to be Devin Vassell.
It is. Where did he just go? Ant. Is that small forward? Where'd he go? Yeah, it's Ant for me.
Small forward, that is going to be Kyle Anderson for me.
Royce O'Neal for me. That doesn't feel great.
I am going to go with Royce O'Neal at power forward.
Okay. Kelly Olynyk for me at power forward.
Bam Adebayo for me at center.
And Nicholas Claxton. I don't like that.
Master PJ said, facts about Ace of Spade. DK ought to gift him something. Yeah, maybe some free tiers lineups. Maybe some merch. I don't know. I agree.
It should honestly just be Eric's tiers with me. Like a different thing instead of my tiers that Greg's drinks. Something else. Just the different spelling.
Would you like
tiers.
me to bring that back? I haven't done
No,
that.
I don't actually. I really
Do you want to know why I haven't done it?
Because there are 94,847 other bits that make fun of me.
No, it's because I don't have paper in my house to write on my thing and tape it onto my water bottle.
Dude wins $250,000 in NBA DFS this season and lives like a hermit.
First off, I'm offended. You think that's how much money I made. It's far more than that. But the other part of it too is that's what you do. You make a bunch of money. It's like, cool. Time to go to the Staples and get a bunch of white paper. Buy a computer with that kind of money, and then you could send emails.
With the look Jordan just gave, he's like, that's the exotic play of the night. The white paper coming out from it's the exotic freaking office accessory of the night. You're pathetic.
See what we have for the next question here. Next question, it is from Champino26. He says, in one lineup, am I more inclined to pay for Edwards and Towns or pay for Spurs players? Wait, well, Towns is out today.
Yeah, so don't play Towns.
I'm not inclined to pay for Towns at all because he's not playing.
Yeah.
So maybe he meant Edwards without Towns and it's just a typo, or pay for the Spurs players. Spurs players over everything else.
Spurs players over legitimately all of the things.
And then he also wants to know who we're getting the most exposure to at each position on DraftKings. Give me like 20 seconds because I was running one final set.
Same. Am I going to play Trey Lyles today? I'm going to play Trey Lyles.
Anything more than 100%. 100% of Zach Collins in 20 lineups is perfectly fine by me.
Yeah, same.
Crash Money 92. If Gafford ends up starting, Jason Kidd apparently said he's making a change and Lively isn't ready. Do you swap half of your Zach Collins to Gafford? I would turn other players into Daniel Gafford. I wouldn't get off of Zach Collins, though.
Such a weird thing to do here. Gafford has been whining himself on the bench for Dallas, so I don't know what to do with that. Gafford's 4,400 against Miami. I still wouldn't go out of my way to like jam. Obviously, he's a good fantasy point per minute producer, so like obviously if he starts, he's going to be underowned. You probably want to get there, but I won't go crazy with that play.
Let's get back to the other part of the question from Champino. Are most rostered players at each position on DraftKings? So starting with point guard, that is now Dennis Smith Jr. for me.
Same. I have so much of him.
Shooting guard. Where are you going with the shooting guard? That is Edwards for me.
Edwards for me.
Let's look small forward.
Kyle Anderson.
Yeah, Kyle Anderson at small forward.
Sohan, the other guy, small forward, power forward, both of them I just have a ton of right now.
Keldon Johnson at power forward.
I wish it were the case right now.
Center, Zach Collins.
And center, it is Zach Collins by a lot.
Let's see what we have next. This is from Rico Rod. Top FanDuel single entry plays by position. The same ones we just went through for the other FanDuel position by position question. Favorite, I like this. Favorite spend up option on the slate. Stokes is asking us, Luka or Jokic. Do you have a preference, Eric?
Love that question. I'm getting more Jokic.
Same for me. It was not the case earlier. Here's what changed it. What changed it was Dennis Smith Jr. taking up a bunch of point guard
Same.
spots. And then it ends up being a lot of my center spots are still going to be Zach Collins. Obviously, we talked about him a whole bunch. But then in that utility spot, it looks like I'm getting to a lot of lineups of Zach Collins at center and Jokic at utility, or whichever player is that starts first, second. I forget which order they end up starting. But either way, yeah, Jokic is my most rostered spend up. Next question here is from Morning Napalm. He wants to know, would you play Smith on FanDuel at $5,300? And also, would we play Smith and Schroeder together? Yes. Smith and Schroeder together isn't that big of an issue. I do think that Dennis Smith Jr. and Lonnie Walker together could be an issue in some lineups because their minutes could kind of cut into each other. So that is more of a negative correlation there. For FanDuel, yeah, Dennis Smith Jr. still certainly in play at $5,300, just not as strong of an option as he's on DraftKings.
Yeah, DraftKings, he is he is a very, very, very strong play on FanDuel. That kind of tends to be a little bit of a theme where some of these guys, they don't fall by the wayside by any means, but the floor isn't what it used to be over there, that's for sure.
Next question here is from Ethan7, wants to know, what are y'all's exposure to Anderson and Dennis Smith Jr.? Yeah, let me. A lot.
I think it was 82% in the last run on just about both of them. I'm uploading this, and then I'll be able to tell you in 2 seconds. Exactly.
Dennis Smith Jr. is in 3/4 of my lineups. Kyle Anderson's in 4/5 of my lineups.
I think that sounds exactly. I will tell you the exact number I have of both here as I click on upload. That is done. Perfect. I have 83% Kyle Anderson. I have 81% Dennis Smith.
My lineups are uploaded and ready to go.
Same.
Next question here is from IC50. Says, you got to respect at Ehrenberg Greg Flex's facts are facts. It's also, you can look it up.
Yeah, you could look it up.
Anybody, if anybody was
I've
so
won
inclined
42,000. I'm doing good, Greg.
Yeah. Hey, I didn't say you weren't.
I'm just a baby over here. Yeah,
I like your shirt
the fact that you've 10x'd me
shirt
today, that's a little bit of a flex.
I do like the Iron Man shirt. I like that one quite a bit. Also, we are very rapidly approaching lock eyes, about 90 seconds away from it. Don't forget that you could go join us over on Playback after this ends. Going to have Josh on. Rich is popping on in a little bit as well. We'll talk about some projections. We'll talk about everything covering the NBA slate today. So if you guys want to keep watching the show in the next minute or so when we head on over to Playback, just hop on over there. Jordan dropped the link in. And if you guys haven't done yet, by the way, like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Let me make sure that there are no questions that we didn't get to here. No super chats came in. And as far as our Discord questions, we've got all of those answered as well. So Eric, any final thoughts on the slate before we head on over to the Playback side of things?
Yeah, I don't think there's really any obviously whatever this Gafford thing that could end up showing up, that'll definitely make me rerun it in the early portion, but we have a lot of Brooklyn and Minnesota exposure now. That's something I didn't see exactly coming in the massive droves that it did coming from doing content last night into today. But San Antonio, obviously just be on the lookout of any pop activities. Obviously, you'll have multiple games to rotate around. And then go Jamal Murray, go Nikola Jokic. Those two guys, they are going to be massive stands for me today. Let's party.
As far as the injury report, we're still waiting on news for Jaylen Brown, which you would think would be bigger news than what it is, but even if he sits, it would alter some of my lineups. So it's not like I'm jamming guys from the Celtics if that's the case. And then also Agbaji questionable, another one that's not going to massively impact my lineups. But who knows what starting lineups could look like? There could be some weird shit that goes on. Josh and I are about to be talking about the slate over on Playback, so go check us out there, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't done it, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. See you over on Playback.